Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. And firstly, apologies, this video should have been produced about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. Other things got in the way, so that meant I wasn't able to get on as quickly with the build as I thought I would. Anyway, this video is all about the nacelles. It was going to be about the plastic bits around the nacelles, but I'll explain why that's not the case in a moment. But the nacelles, now there's a lot of work involved in the nacelles. A lot of wiring, a lot of other bits and pieces like undercarriage, retracts. So anyway, instead of me waffling on, let's go on the bench and have a look to see what I'm talking about. Right, since the last video I've cracked on with a lot of things. I left it in a state of play where I had the servo boxes in place, the channels out for the wiring. So I've now run the wiring through, one piece wiring from the nacelle to the root of the wing, and then I've filled those in with balsa strips, and ditto out to the aileron servo boxes, so one cable running through. So if you recap, I was going to use S-bus to PWM converter in the nacelles, which I'm still going to use. Slight change, I'm going to have the aileron cable running back to the converter. I'm going to have the retracts and the flaps running to the converter, but the ESC won't be doing that. The ESC, I've decided, let's just move this down, will run with the power leads behind the oil coolers, radiators in the wing, from the nacelle through to the fuselage. What else have I got on with? Well, obviously you can see the wheels fitted, so I fitted the retract units with their rubber mounts. One thing on the retract units, just be aware of, or to be aware of, that the alloy block that holds the wires, the undercarriage legs, that must be set back from the servo by about 3 to 5 millimeters. Otherwise, when the leg comes up, that will foul on the case of the undercarriage servo. So just be aware of that. Whilst I've got it in that position, I've also fitted the flap servos. I put a plate in the nacelle, put my flap servos. I'm using thin wing servos only because I've got them there. I've put push rods, which are snakes, which go through down beside the wheel. The snake's actually glued to the ply sides of the nacelle and stops there, and the inner comes out here, just see it, and I've got a ball link on the end. I'll explain why in a moment. Other things that I've done, I've prepared the flap. So this is the port wing flap. I've cut it to length. I've cut out the pocket in the middle because obviously that's going to rotate, and the nacelle housing comes here, so that has to rotate round. That's not cut fully to size, finely to size at the moment. I may have to trim a bit off those, but it's more or less to length. I've chamfered the leading edge of the flaps, you can see there, so that because it's top hinged using the mylar hinges that are supplied, because it's top hinged, then it allows it to rotate. But that, to my mind, wasn't enough rotation on its own, so I've also chamfered the trailing edge here where the flap goes, so that now gives me a flap movement of approximately that. So they're not barn door flaps. To do that I'd have had to have either pin hinges or bottom hinge, but I'm not, I'm top hinging, so that's sufficient. and the movement on the push rod is only about 20 millimeters backwards and forwards. But because of the way the whole thing is lined up, I'll just turn that round so you can see that here. Because the nacelle plastic will come down here, the horn for the flap has got, if I want to hide it, has got to be more or less in the middle of the nacelle, which means that when this push rod's in place, it's offset at an angle to the control horn. Hence the reason why I've used the ball link. And just hopefully show you that. There you can see the horn is there, offset from the push rod, but the push rod can bend over and the ball link will work correctly with the difference of angles that we've got there. Talking of the flap, again, what I did, the control horn is just an ordinary horn cut down, but I've reinforced the leading edge with a bit of 6mm ply, so I've got something to screw the horn onto. Right, let's just move that back. Something else I've done to mount the plastic, nacelle plastic, which I've already shaped here, but I'm going to do another video on the plastics later because they're quite involved. Because this is going to be glued in place, not bolted in place, and I'll explain why in a moment, I've put some blocks down here to give more gluing area for the plastic. Yes, you can glue it directly onto the wing, but this just gives it a bit more strength. Now the reason why the nacelles are glued in place and not screwed in place is because the rear of the nacelle here, and forget my bit of balsa on there, I've just added that because I've been playing around with something. The rear of the nacelle actually glues onto the top sheet that fits on top of the wing, like so. So if I put my flap in place, you get a better idea of how it all goes. And then that top plate goes on there, and they're glued at that point there, and then the plastic preformed shape piece in the kit actually fits on there and gives it the fairing, the blending through to the nacelle. You will have to use filler. It won't look right unless you use filler as well, but it's quite a complicated. You've got a curve that comes on the full size, a curve that comes this way, and it also goes that way. Trying to achieve that is quite complex. Anyway, that's why this nacelle will be glued in place, because it's fixed at the back. And because it's glued in place, it then means that the sequence of build is determined by that, because I can't glue the nacelle plastic in place until the horn is bolted to the push rod, which means this has got to be hinged and this top plate is in place. And obviously if I glue that in place, I can't get at that horn and bolt, so that's got to be in place, which then means that I've got to cover this first before I do this, because the hinging will take place after the covering. So this now, the plastic gets left till after the covering is done on the wing. So just to recap, the sequence is mark out my hinges, dry fit my hinges, which I'm using Mylar hinges. I will fit my top sheet like so. I will then use the offcuts of the flap here to infill that space to give this more strength here. Once I've done that, I can then cover that. I can cover the wing, then I can do the plastic. So that's why the plastic has been pushed back to one of the latter jobs. So the way I see me progressing now is that I will fit the center fuselage piece, which you recall is this, and you noticed here that I've used the offcuts of the flap aileron piece there. I've glued those in place, and the reason for that is that when I slide the fuselage center piece in, which is obviously glued in place, there is the former here which goes, and that's the fuselage joining former, the front one, that goes in place on there, and then I can glue it to this as well as to the subframe, the fuselage subframe assembly, like that. So that will be the next sequence, I think, after I've finished the flaps, infilling the flaps. I can do the ailerons, of course I can do the ailerons because I need to chamfer the ailerons. I can fit the wing tips, but then I can fit this in place. So that will be the next operation. That will then finish the main construction of the wing. I'll leave the sheeting till later. I can then move on to the tail half of the fuselage. So that's why it's taken so long. There doesn't appear to be a lot of work in what I've done here, but believe you me, it was a lot of head scratching to get all of this sorted out, the sequence in which I've got to do things, and to make sure that I wasn't building and putting stuff in place and gluing it in place, which then prevented me doing other work. So a lot of to and froing on that, but I'm there now, which is good. And there you have it, guys. That's the build of this video, forming this video. Yes, it's quite a quick video because I'm showing you what I've already done, and like I said during the video, it doesn't appear that I've done a lot of work, but there's been a lot of head scratching to make sure that I get it right. And I've still got to do, I've done the port wing, I've still got to do the starboard wing, both the aileron, cut out the angles, etc, etc, do some termination of the wiring. I've still got to do all that, but the main thing is I've got over that hurdle of external influences stopping me building, having a bit of a meltdown over what I'm going to do next in the build. That's all behind me now, so I can crack on with the build, and hopefully the next build video will be out in a week's time. So thanks for watching, guys. Those who haven't subscribed and are watching this, please do so. I would appreciate that. Any comments, put below. Don't forget, likes, thumbs up down below as well, and the comments I'll get back to you when I can. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.